Chicago Investing News Network, and here with me today is Anthony Milewski, CEO of Cobalt27. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, I appreciate it.
Okay, that's great. So we're here at PDAC. How are you finding the conference? Are investors really interested in the Cobalt story?
You know, it's an amazing conference. I have to say, it's the most action I've seen at PDAC in probably 5 or 6 years. You know, there's interest in Cobalt, but I think there's just generally interest in the space, which we haven't seen in years. So there's a lot of folks out, and they're looking for new stories and looking for new investment opportunities.
Okay, that's great. So let's talk about the market. You know, investors are hearing all these stories about the demand for Cobalt in the next few years. What is your outlook for the Cobalt market?
Yeah, you know, it's a really important time for the Cobalt market. We're seeing a structural change in the energy markets and the automobile market, and that really the key driver for that change is the adoption of the electric vehicle. So I'll give you a quick data point. Today, the Cobalt market is 100,000 metric tons. At the end of 2017, the penetration rate for electric vehicles was about 1.8%. So right now, most analysts think that in 2025, the penetration rate is going to be about 15%. At 15%, the market is short around 250,000 metric tons of Cobalt, and all of that needs to go into the EV. However, at the current rate of adoption with the EVs, we're looking at more like a 25 to 30% adoption in 2025. So the fundamentals on the demand side are amazing.
All right. And there's also been many news about car makers and even technology companies such as Apple trying to strike long-term deals with miners directly. How do you think these long-term deals impact the Cobalt market?
Look, in my view, every single consumer of Cobalt is out speaking with probably every single producer of Cobalt. You know, what I foresee in the next 6 to 12 months is a deal between Katanga and either a consumer electronics company like an Apple or an automobile maker like a Volkswagen, probably a tripartite deal with a battery maker to secure offtake. In fact, the next big leg up in the Cobalt price probably comes when deals are announced around Katanga's production, because at that moment, if you're automobile company A and B and you have the offtake, you're okay. But if you're automaker C and you didn't get the offtake, well, where are you going to find it? And really, the visibility on future production is at Katanga initially, and so that's really a critical moment for the industry and for securing supply.
All right, and another very important topic in the coal market is the responsible sourcing of the metal. We've seen the Amnesty International report come out last year again. We've also seen the LME taking several steps, to step up that responsible sourcing of the metal. What are your thoughts on this matter?
Yeah, I mean, this is really a tragic issue. I mean, I'm very passionate about it. You know, the kind of human rights abuses that can take place are significant and material, and I think it's really the obligation of the industry to figure out a way to monitor the supply chain all the way back if artisanal material is going to be used at all. And I think there are a number of companies thinking about ways to put this on the blockchain. But first and foremost, I think if industry is going to use Cobalt, it's important if you're going to use artisanal mining production into your battery, that you actually are able to look all the way back to that production and ensure for the end consumer of the product that this was sourced in an ethical way. And so different companies are trying different technologies, including blockchain. I don't think there's a clear answer yet, but I think a lot of people are out there trying to figure out a way to actually make this happen.
All right, and we know that most of the Cobalt is mined in the DRC, but do you see more production coming from outside this country? So
today, 65% of global production comes in the DRC. As Katanga and later RTR come online, that number raises to as much as 75 to 77%. So actually, in the coming years, we're going to see a higher concentration of production in the Congo. If I look outside of the Congo, the real production stories are nickel stories, whether that's Cleantech or Dumont in Canada. I think the nickel price is critical to seeing additional units of Cobalt outside of the Congo.
All right, and speaking about Dumont, you actually just signed a deal with RNC. Do you want to talk about that specific deal? That's your first deal, right?
Yeah, no, look, we're really excited to be there. When we look around the world, we're obviously focused on streaming transactions, which are currently producing. But you also need a pipeline, and there are only a couple world-class assets that have a shot at being built this cycle, and that happens to be one of them. And it's in Quebec. It's in one of the great mining jurisdictions. So for us, it was a no-brainer to be able to buy that NSR over the project, and hopefully help support management as they move towards consolidating the asset and moving forward with potentially building it.
All right, and for investors that might not know about Cobalt27, can you just briefly explain how your company is different to other Cobalt companies out there?
You know, our company is a proxy for the adoption of the electric vehicle. You know, Cobalt is an ideal proxy, and so, you know, we're different because, you know, we're kind of, we're special. We own 3,000 metric tons of cobalt, the largest single physical position that I know of outside of China. And then we've layered on scale through streaming and royalty transactions. So we're not going to build a mine. We're not going to take that risk. You know, we might not go up 20 times, but you know what? We're not going to go down 50% in a single trading period. So I think it's a unique, risk-adjusted kind of a vehicle that allows the investor to really capture the beta of the cobalt price move going forward. And it's really, as I said, a proxy for the adoption of the electric vehicle.
All right, and what other deals are you expecting to do? Any other similar deals like the one you did with RNC this year, or? You
know, we're hopeful that we'll do, you know, maybe 2 more NSRs this year, and hopefully 2 streaming transactions. So, you know, I don't know if you've seen, but we just raised $180 million this week. You know, that money obviously is in anticipation of a streaming transaction. You know, we've been working hard to try to get to the finish line here. So, you know, we anticipate this year completing a few more transactions.
All right. And any other milestones that investors can expect from Cobalt27 this year?
I think the key milestone is really executing on the business plan now, which is, you know, streams and royalties and you know, getting those into the company and really expanding the market cap and making the stock more liquid.
All right, and my final question for you today, with your experience in the battery metal sector, what would be your best piece of advice for investors new to the battery metal space?
So, from my perspective, this story is really a copper, nickel, cobalt, and lithium story. And I would say if you're brand new to investing in this space, start with the producers. You know, if you're looking at nickel, look at Independence or Norilsk. If you're looking at lithium, Albemarle. You know, copper, there's First Quantum, there are names. And get comfortable with the metal, get comfortable with the dynamic, and then move down into the exploration kind of stages. Because I think, you know, the producers are a lot safer bet. Over time, of course, the big moves are going to happen in exploration and development companies, but if I was new to the space, I would try to understand the metals, try to understand the EV thematic, start looking at producers, and then edge your way down into more risky stocks that have, by the way, bigger upside, but also a bigger downside.
All right, Anthony, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. Once again, I'm Priscilla Barrera with the Investing News Network.